Hey everybody, at Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop along with Mopars.com. We're coming at you live in the 10 o'clock hour. Can't really see that too well, but it's cooled all the way down to 88. Felt like the air conditioner was on. So we're sitting in the midst of like a 2-week stretch of 100-degree weather. And this coming week is going to be even warmer. So I came out here, kind of got a late start, but it was intentional. Got some other stuff done I needed to while the AC was blowing inside. Dropped the fan down to 1, 2, it was a little loud, so I'm doing you a favor there. But without further ado, we're going to jump into this, and I gotta say, I'm kind of excited about it. So what do we have? We have this. And this is something I have never seen in the stores, and I have looked for a really, really long time now. And of course, right after I order it, I start to see them in stores. I don't think I've seen the deeps. I think the shallows is what I saw. But what are we looking at? Well, let's just cut right to the chase. These are, slide that down, obviously Icon, and they are 1/2-inch deep metric, that's right, metric impact sockets. So you probably have some questions. You're like, well, why? You know, Icon, what's the deal? What's going on? And some of you are like, oh yeah, metric, you know, you probably don't use that too often. And all those are valid points, and let's kind of take you on a little journey here. Number one, I'll tell you, I use timestamps. I'm one of the few people that actually does that. If you want to get to when these are opened up or when they're in hand, or we compare it with something, which we will do, by the way, hit the drop down arrow, you will see the timestamps. You can literally pick and choose. That kills watch time. It doesn't benefit me any, but I do that for you, the viewer. Take advantage of it if you are so inclined. Also, rocking the dirty alphas, but Icon, sort of red and black, kind of. So I thought we'd roll with those. Discount code of Lone Star will save you on alpha gloves. Again, make nothing off of that. I just use these. I believe in them. They last. And if you're looking for a good pair of gloves, I think they will serve you well as well. So let's step back a little bit, and we're just kind of going to throw some stuff out here. So 3/8 metric, I went with Capri. That's what we have here in front of us. And the reason for that, they are a stupid good price, and they are chrome moly. I don't care what a company says. I don't care what an engineer will argue with me. This comes from personal experience. When I use an impact, I want to use chrome moly, CRMO, whatever you want to call it. Chrome vanadium, yeah, that's great for chrome sockets, and sure, you can use it as an impact and you don't have the chrome. That's great. Obviously, it is not having this chrome, so it doesn't peel and cut you really bad. But I have seen the sockets fail. They don't last as long, in my opinion, and I've seen a couple grenade. Luckily, it's never happened to me, but it's something that it's not really a price prohibitive deal, typically, especially with an impact socket, since they're not finished out as well. You kind of come out swinging on top in that case. So with Capri, they just have stupid good values on their impact sockets, and they meet my criteria for materials, right? What we have here is my SAE stuff. This is going to be shallow. This is Wright. I've had fantastic luck with those at work. What I have even more experience with at work is something that we see here, which is a 1/2-inch deep. If you'll note, chrome moly impacts, particularly the American ones I'm accustomed to, have super fat sidewalls. This is something that you want with an impact most of the time. Reason being, you're not just, when you use an impact wrench, whether it's air, battery powered, Milwaukee, I don't care what you've got. If you're here with a ratchet, you're just applying side load to the fastener, right? With an impact, you may not realize it, but it's sort of got the hammering effect. Thereby, you would want a beefier, thicker, heavier socket in a perfect world. Now, what I do at work is typically ideally suited, I should say, for the fat, thick-walled impacts. That's why I'm able to get by with them. In some instances, that's a little too fat of a sidewall. If your bread and butter is like automotive stuff, if you're working on like a lot of particularly European cars, fat sidewall is probably going to be a problem more often than it benefits you, and that's one of the reasons, you know, you'll pay a little extra money for a thin sidewall, or just get, you know, a set of vanadium sockets, which is stereotypically the thinner sidewall. So I don't lie, I tell you straight up, at work everything is SAE minus a few freak odds and ends that's super inconvenient for me. Here at the house, pretty much my bread and butter, it's gonna be old school SAE. I don't care what's going on in the world. I don't care about, you know, a 2022 Toyota. I don't care about a 94 Camry. I'm concerned primarily with Chrysler stuff, Mopars. The older the better in most cases, sweet spot being the 60s and 70s. Second gen Ram, you've sort of got like a hodgepodge, sort of like a crossover time, right? You've got an LA-based engine, but it's tweaked for the Magnum, so the new stuff is metric, right? So your front accessory bracket, you know, your intake, there's redesigned for a throttle body. You got a lot of metric, but you also have a lot of old school stuff still. Obviously, on the Challenger, anytime I do late model stuff for people, it's metric, but I kind of prefer to stay in the past. That's where I like being. And that's why I invest in better sockets for the SAE stuff, because I use it way more frequently. Coming in, so like, how does the Capri stuff wear? Well, this is a little half-inch one, and if we take a look at it, the issue with these is I've got shallow, semi-deep, and deep, and I kind of never know what to use. This is actually held up fairly well. I think that might just be anti-seize on the top of it. One of the sort of like be-all end-all sets I thought I was getting for convenience and carry was these Tektons. I don't know what I was thinking, but at the time, for some reason, I thought that they were a chrome Moly, and they're not. Chrome Vanadium. And that said, they haven't blown up, they haven't shattered, nothing crazy, but the little set I got years back at work, I have like two. I've got shallow and deep that came in the red plastic cases. I mean, this is like, geez, man, 5-6 years, maybe longer. I don't know. Some of you probably have something similar, know what I'm talking about. This came in a red case too, but it was like the hybrid set. Okay, so if I stick that in there and we focus, we have 7/16, 11 3/4, 19, which, yeah, they technically overlap, but then there's a lot of stuff that gets skipped. And this little guy in particular, okay, 7/16. We're dealing with a situation where things shouldn't be that bad. This would be 1/4 inch hardware and whatever 11 converts to metric wise. And I mean, it's been used, but like, it's just chewed up. That's nothing on Tekton, that's just vanadium sockets. That's kind of what they do. So ultimately, I wanted to come in and get Moly. Now, you're sitting here and you're thinking like, whoa, hey, you know, Koken, go German. Why don't you go German? You do a lot of German tools. What's the deal? You know, it's like, yeah, I do, but I would consider it budget conscious or thrifty. Not necessarily cheap. That's why we have the Protos and the Wrights. I mean, I could get something far less expensive, but these are known entities to me. You know, while these don't have 20 years of experience on them, the ones that work do. I'm very well versed in them. I believe in them. I have the experience to back it up. With the metric stuff, I want to have them. I know that I'll need them on occasion. And it's just a situation where really across the board, even Nipros, like high-end, you know, like super fancy, shallow sockets really are pretty competitive across the board, you know, like especially compared to tool truck brands. Pick your maker, you know, Stavilla, Hazet, Gador, you know, Koken, again, Nipros, like I said. Pretty much anything, and you can usually come out swinging on top. You go to deeps, and prices get pretty crazy. And that's something where I'm just not super comfortable, like shelling out tons of money for something that I might need or use on occasion when I could get by with something I've got, if that kind of makes sense to you. So some of you will recall a while back, and this is only because there's like a stupid good sale, and this was never in the frickin' store. Like, I can't tell you how long I have looked for these, and they're just not there. But on this Ulsa rail, again, these are tucked away in a drawer because I don't use them often. Ignore, this is me playing around with the paint pens there. But this is a Pittsburgh set, right? And this is sadly chrome vanadium, which sort of sucks, but my thoughts were like, hey, these are going to be my thinner wall. These are actually fairly thick in some, it's really weird. You come in here and like your tin is super thick, and then this skips a lot. So 11 and 12 aren't here, 13 and 14 are. They would be a thinner wall in my opinion than the tin. And then you get to the 15 and it's like just dwarfs this. So it's kind of like whatever stock they were using and their cutoff point sort of dictates the wall. I don't think it's like engineered precisely. It's just kind of like, well, we're going to turn that down, we're going to use this stock, and that's probably a parting point. And so in theory, that's why you probably see like these two are relatively thin. I would imagine like this is sort of the same stock size. And then there's probably like another break point or two. But all that aside, these are chrome vanadium. I had these to get me by. This is like a $19 deal. That's another reason. I would say it's a comprehensive set, but it's certainly not complete. If you can see it, we've got 10, 13, 14, 15, 17, so you're skipping 16. And then we do have an 18, which is nice, especially if you cross over. You got a 19, a 21, I think that's a 22, 24, 27, 30, and 32, and the cap just came off in my gloved hand. I'll have to get that back on and we'll start spilling sockets here. But it skips, right? And sometimes that's fine. You've got your most frequently used sizes, but what if you need something else, right? That's where this comes in. These, are they more expensive than the Pittsburghs? Oh yeah. You're looking at, like, currently, I just pulled it up, $72.99. I got these with a recent 20% off deal. I had used up my trips locally, and they, you know, kind of knew me. I'd been in there a couple days in a row, and I thought, you know what, they'd probably sell it to me, but they didn't have it. And it was oddly enough online, and I thought, you know what, I didn't really ever want to buy anything online from Harbor Freight. We'll get to that eventually. But this was a deal. They were finally there, and it was 20% off, and I thought, this is the time to make it happen. So I want to say these are like 50 something with taxes and everything and freight. They came out like 65. So not too bad of a deal considering it's a 14-piece set, and it is chrome moly. That's what that says down here. So let's take a look at their selling points. They're going to say these are professional, obviously, again, because of the icon line. High visibility stamped size markings. I can't see jack through this clouded lid. We'll have to investigate that together. Chamfered socket openings. This is a big deal to me. What is my one knock on Capri? Some of you will say the Wesley tray. I love the Wesley trays. I just don't like the way that they fit and orient the sockets. It's kind of a sad deal. I don't like this. I don't like the square flat. I want it to be chamfered. There's debates on whether, you know, this will last you significantly longer than a chamfered one or not. I just want to be able to swap sockets on a creeper or draped over an engine bay and have it slide onto the anvil as easy as possible. If we look at the Wright, it's got a great chamfer. If we look at the Proto, it's got a very aggressive chamfer as well. Even these Tektons that are the chrome vanadium, they've got a really aggressive chamfer. It's what I prefer. I can't really fault Capri, especially at their price point, for doing that. I'm sure they've got their engineering reasons. Personally, if I get an extra 50 fasteners, you know, one way or the other, I don't care. I just, again, know what I like. That's what I want to stick with. So that's a big selling point to me. Precision forged for maximum grip and torque. Again, and pretty much everyone's going to say that, so we'll see over time. And premium storage tray included. Oddly enough, right now, given the size range discrepancies I've got with metric, they might stay in here for a little while. Eventually, we'll probably socket boss these. I think is what the best course of action would be, but remains to be seen. Now, what's really important for anyone interested in this is the size range, and again, this is why I told you I've got timestamps. You don't care about that filler material. Here you go, straight to the point on this stuff. So, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. No skips, 10 through 19. So that kind of kills what Pittsburgh had going over there. 10 through 19, kind of your bread and butter stuff for 3/8, little half-inch drive action, you know, for an impact. You're covered. You're going to skip the 20. You've got a 21, a 22. You skip, interestingly, 23, 4, and 5. Noting that the Pittsburgh set does have the 24. We get to 27 and we stop, or 26 and 7, we stop. And if you're like, hey, I thought that Pittsburgh set went to 32, it did. It's got a 30 and a 32 beyond this. So does that open the door for Icon to have an expanded line of this stuff? Absolutely. Would they benefit by selling these standalone? Yeah, I think they would. That's a topic we'll cover soon eventually, because this is like way off in the future. And we'll leave it at that. But what we've got going on now is my prep for this video. And you think, yeah, you had to grab quite a few sockets there, man. Had to jump toolboxes, didn't you? Sure did. But the biggest thing is the way this is packaged. It requires a specific tool to open it. And that tool is a #1 Phillips. You'll note we've got 4 fastener recesses. All 4 fasteners are there, despite this being cracked by the helpful folks at FedEx. I just really wanted to get these open. I will tell you this as well. Every single time I order from Harbor Freight lately, it's just a nightmare, and that's why I try not to do it anymore. This stuff, it's shipped out. You know, they take like almost a week to ship it, which is kind of ridiculous on their end. But then they got it on Harbor Freight, and this was like going to be a Sunday delivery, like this past week. And I was like, sweet, you know, I can go out and crank that video out. It's going to be awesome. I'll have these ready to go. I can start kind of, you know, fitting them in the box, seeing how I want to organize them. Guess when these arrived? They were originally slated for Sunday. Keep in mind, California to Texas, okay? Straight shot, primarily desert, no inclement weather. Sunday delivery time. I got these, I don't even remember, it might not have been Thursday, it may have been Friday, but basically like 4 to 5 days late. And yeah, just thing after thing, and then you get them, and of course, you know, the box is okay, that's cracked. Granted, you know, some of you, like especially again, like I always say, body shop come to mind with the dust, might actually want this to drop down over the case if you use it. I do want to highlight before we take this apart, on the back side, they've got sort of another little flyer. This is it in terms of information. But chamfered openings for easy fastener and drive engagement. So not only is it chamfered here for your, you know, bolt or your nut, down here as well on the anvil like we discussed. They label theirs as a semi-shallow hex. And what they're meaning there is if you look down the throat of this Wright, you see that circular kind of washer looking piece? That's just where it's machined, obviously. But that is going to hold the nut there, right? So if we got a nut stuck, I mean, if that thing was just on there and you're hammering and it breaks free, and it's one of those things where it twists off and it's in the landing, you're not going to be able to just flip it over and tap it, right? And then if it's sized really good, you're not going to be able to get a punch in there and hit it out from the backside. It's primarily applicable to nuts, right? Obviously, if a bolt twisted in here, you can flip this over and just punch her out. But when you get a nut, oh, that's a problem, because then you're going to have to hope that the threads are good, so you can thread something in it, probably the bolt, and see if you can pull it out that way. And when that becomes more of an issue, it's when it's super deep on the broaching. There's pros and cons to everything. This Proto, it's sort of got a semi-landing pad right there. It's very hard to see, but let me see. The Capri is pretty deep as well, and some people prefer that the fasteners stay up top. Like this Capri shallow one, if we had a nut in here, it would just be like, this is a 1/2 inch, so if we had a 5/16 nut, it would pretty much be, I could get my finger on it, right? Sometimes they're not broached that way, like this Tekton. If we had our, this is a 3/4, right? So if we had like a 1/2-13 nut we just pulled off and it was stuck down in that hole, my finger can technically get there, but I mean, it's this deep, right? We're like 2 knuckles in. Some people want that to be right at the top, others don't. There's pros and cons both ways. It's most likely going to be a deal where when it becomes an issue for you, you will need what you don't have. And that's, again, another nice thing about sort of, you got your cheap set, you got an expensive set, you got the really nice set, you got the thin wall. Different times that broaching could potentially be advantageous to you. But back to the front side, I had to decide what screwdriver to use. And we used the VHA over here on the bench top last time. So since Icon is kind of red and black, we're going with a Felo Frico. That's right. So I try to color coordinate this stuff for you people as I can, but you know, it is what it is. Now, I've read something that people are saying that Icon is kind of going away from like their super fancy packaging, which I think this would be, and going to something cheaper. You would think that would be to like lower the price point on the tool and sell more, but from what I see online, you know, the prices are still climbing, probably because of like global materials and everything. But it is something to note that if you pick these up, maybe, you know, the sets are changing a little. Don't exactly know. What have we done? Okay. Wait, does that just take that off, or does that come on its own? Maybe. Yeah, well, that is what that did. So you can see the little recesses there. Those are threaded. So if you want to like put that somewhere, you can. Ourselves a little mishap there with the camera and this giant case, and me not being able to see because there's a tripod in front of me. But I was going to say, like, this thing is not wanting to lift. I'm pretty sure. Thought we had all the fasteners out. We'll throw these to the side. Are those not out? They're out. They're just stuck differently. So that's not a hinged lid. It just snaps off. The reason, I guess, that I said this was cloudy would be what you see here. So this is a plastic tray inside of a plastic case. And, so this is something that we want to get off. Man, these look way better, you know, when you don't have that cloud. I get it, you know, they have to keep them packed well and everything. You'll also note this is kind of worse for the wear here, probably just from freight. So this might be a deal. We've got to like extract these to get this out of there. It's just so hard with my thumb on this other hand. So if this hand can get it going, I should be home free. And that's also a really good test for the tray, which, like I said, I think I'll kind of have to use it temporarily. Getting this cardboard tucked back under there does add a little strength, but you could seriously, if you plan to use this tray, just leave it in here if you have the space. And this is way more robust. That's kind of a lot of scrap packaging, but that would be nice, again, if you're going to tray it up. But I mean, as you can see, this is plenty strong for what it is. The sizes are labeled. You already know I've got serious issues with it. Here's why. So tin should be here, okay? We read left to right. There's some evil creature in here. It's right there. Why don't I keep brake clean on this bench? I don't know. I don't think it's a wasp, but it looks like a grasshopper with a stinger. I don't know. This is the last anyone hears from me. That's my best description right now. But I would prefer 10 over here, and then I would obviously on this side prefer the 18 to 27. That's just me. It's not a huge deal. It is what it is. But coming in, this will be our 10. These are oiled modestly. It's nothing crazy, and that is chrome moly, and that is pretty decently beefy. It's not like it's super thick, but it's also not like incredibly thin-walled. Obviously, right, this is kind of another thing. Okay, some people orient their sockets like this, just like that clip that we had, and you would want the tin to be stamped here, right? Some people that use the little peg trays, then you've got the tin up here. I kind of prefer like what I'm used to, like with the Proto here. You know, you got it, the socket oriented in this manner, and you got your size marking just like that. That's another story for another day, but that is my personal preference. Getting the gloved hand there, you can kind of see icon tin, and then it's got, I guess, a standalone part number. Nowhere on here am I seeing chrome moly, which that's what they claim they're made out of. Is it anywhere on the barrel? No. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I would prefer to see that indication. This isn't like chamfered near as aggressively as any of these to the side that are chamfered, but it is got a little bit, it seems like it's going to be a nice, easy insert for the power tool of choice, or a hand ratchet, whatever you're doing. It does have, we should probably grab a bigger, that thing is, you know what? This is I think that's a Hornet. Oh, geez. Okay, well, my apologies on that front. Might have to suddenly pause here in a second. Let's just go to the 27. This will showcase way better for you. You'll note, again, call it what you want to, wave drive, flank drive, torque drive, AS drive, anything. If you look right here, instead of just being 6 points, you've got the cutout. Obviously, the torque is then going to be applied to the sidewalls, not the points. If you apply it to the sidewall and not the point, you're far less likely to round something off. That would be the bad thing. I want to make sure that these are all stamped consistently. They are, so they're all going to be like that. Even this big one, though. So it looks like the 13DM, you're going to have, like, I guess, whatever designation, and then maybe deep metric size. No chrome moly anywhere on there, which is kind of a buzzkill. But the other thing I'm going to tell you with Icon, okay, now granted, this Wright and the Proto are probably the two best impact sockets here. You'll note Wright also does the way I prefer it, where it's stamped down at the bottom, you know, where it would orient in the correct manner. This is a deal where something I think Icon could do, particularly since they're trying to like target tool trucks and the professional user and the guy that's going to be like, hey, why would I buy Pittsburgh for $29 when I could spend more and get Icon, if anyone says that. Something they could easily do is what we see here with the Capri and what we also see with the Tektons, okay? they could easily come in addition to the stampings, which I prefer, eventually this stuff does come off when it rubs. It's no different than the insides. It might take a little while till you get in that situation, but when that goes to a spinning, she's going to rub and that's going to get eaten off. I would still, despite that being a thing that I'm aware of, would love to have seen the icons have that laser etched, right? Just, I know it'll come off over time, but initially it's going to be awesome. You've got sizes you don't ever use in what you're doing. You would be able to like peg where the sockets go or what's missing easier. Keep it stamped. That's great. You're on the right track. But for this price point and what they're trying to target with icon, I think they need to have had these laser etched on one, if not two sides. Again, try to compete with people. Try to step it up a notch. You know, if Capri and Tekton just stamp on one side, well, you do both. And Capri is a great example here. You'll note they've got this lasered on this side, and then when you flip it over, you've got the chrome Moly, and you've got the 19, okay? Note that Capri does what I like, similar to Wright and to Proto. And the Tektons, you've got it over here, and to be totally fair to Capri, Icon, and Tekton, they don't even have a stamping on this one. If it is, it's so pathetically dull that you can't see it, so there's nothing stamped here. Now, this will come off and wear down over time just as well, but then you don't have anything, right? So Tekton only lasered these. They might have sets that are different. Don't hold it to me. I feel like my old ones are stamped and lasered, but I could be wrong. These don't have the laser. Capri does both, and then my Wright and Protos are just straight up old school stamping. Just like the icons here, but again, I think you take this chance and you laser at least one side, maybe do two. Or orient it, you know, with like your ball detent. You know, like most people that put these on a rail, you're going to have it plug in. So knowing that, you would clock 90 degrees and have your laser stamping. Just things I would suggest moving forward, right? But overall, let's grab the 19. I do use that quite a bit, and that's also what we have examples of. That is a thick sidewall. Wasn't really expecting it to be that thick. That's kind of a good thing. And then again, right here, we do have to flip it. We've got Icon 19. I'd also maybe stamp it bigger. If that's all you're going to do is stamp it, you know, go big or go home. All right. So again, the oiling, I think they actually did a pretty good job of. It's not stupid crazy, but it's there, and that keeps these from like showing up with flash rust. Some of the Pittsburghs that come on the rails, if you walk around the stores enough, see enough end caps, you'll see some that are just flash rusted. It's because they don't have oil on them, or they did and it's like gone. It also depends on the transit and where it was lost, all that stuff. But this is a pretty beefy little guy. Now, this is 1/2-inch drive here on the Tekton. Look at that. I mean, this is your Icon, this is the Tekton, this is Moly versus Vanadium, and then flipping these up, super thick sidewall comparatively. Now, like I said, this is what I prefer. However, this might be an obstruction, an impedance for you, a hindrance. That's where something like a Vanadium set with a thinner sidewall could be big. Obviously, you can get Molys with thin sidewalls, but you typically pay a lot because it's sort of like specialty and people just tax the snot out of you for that. Anything specialty. But it's kind of nice. This is why it's good to have options and different, you know, materials available, because Moly is typically going to be your fat, thick socket and Vanadium will be thinner. If this was going and busting everything along on a frame rail fine for you, and you get up to the backside of an engine and you got like a recess cut out of the cast iron and this is just hitting here and you can't get to the fastener, sometimes instead of you coming along with a die grinder and clearancing it, you can just fit this. And this is way easier swapping a socket than getting a die grinder in there, you know, and going to town enough to clean this up. So that's sort of the selling points there. This is not really a fair comparison. I don't have Capri 1/2-inch, obviously, but this is the 3/8. The reason you're like, man, 19, you would always want to use a 1/2-inch impact for that idiot. That's debatable, but one reason that you would want 3/8 is, again, thinner sidewall versus a 1/2-inch. So bottom line, if you can and you enjoy tools or you have a lot of strange situations to get into, diversity. It's always good to have multiple weapons in your arsenal because, again, having a socket is a lot easier than going in tight quarters and having to clearance or die grind or dismantle, pull an engine, you know, whatever you have to do, drop the transmission down a little bit. I would personally rather just take care of it with a different tool if possible. It's the easiest, quickest outlet. So while we've got the Pittsburghs, and that's actually something else, I need to get this lid. The reason I forgot to do this, we have that giant freaking lid over here. So I'm going to grab this guy off of the rail. This is the Pittsburgh 19. I want you to note something important on it. See how this one is oriented just like I like with the Capri, the Proto, and the Wright, where you've got that. This is actually a much larger stamping than we have on the Icon, ironically. So that's a fail on the Icon front, in my opinion. Spinning it around, again, no lasers, nothing crazy. This does also have CR-V for Chrome Vanadium stamp. That's also a win for the Pittsburghs. It's chamfered quite nicely. We come up. It's sort of a mid-ground, right? I would say, and the Tekton's kind of a bad example because it's been used quite a bit, but I'd say it's just a little bit thicker than our Tekton, and then it's a good bit thinner than the Icon. So left to right, you've got the Tekton Chrome Vanadium. Again, it looks shiny because it's been used more. And then we've got the Pittsburgh sandwiched in the middle and the Icon. Tekton, super easy to see with the stamping, or I mean the lasering, that's going to come off. There's no stamping. This just has the stamping, but it's super easy to read and it's oriented the way I prefer. Look how small that 19 is. It's granted, you can see it right now pretty easy, even though it's upside down, but like compare that to the Pittsburgh one. You know, like when you spend, keep in mind, you can get this same set of Pittsburghs for like 20 bucks on sale, okay? If you're impatient or you've got to have them, consider it 30. Basically less than half the price that you would pay for the Icon set. So do you get the better tray? Yes, the Pittsburghs, some people reuse those. I wouldn't advise it. You get a tray if that's your thing. Again, it's not oriented how I would want it. It also takes up a lot more space than it would on a rail, which is again why we'll eventually switch this over. I will say to their credit, since they do this plastic tray that I know some of you like and prefer, it is a perk that the lid is somewhat robust. Why? Because that'll keep dust or whatever's in your shop environment. Maybe these stay out on a workbench and you're beside the guy that grinds. Obviously, the more you can keep it covered, the less mess you've got to deal with. I will also say this is extremely robust, this little plastic tray here. So if space constraint isn't a deal, or this is your main set of sockets, you could keep them in here. It's super easy to carry. Obviously, this is not something I would want to carry all the time. I think you could certainly do it, but putting it in that plastic tray, I think you'd be fine. Again, space constraints, just the big deal. I think they look like decent sockets. Obviously, you have to use these. I have zero experience with Icon impact sockets. I don't have any experience with Harbor Freight Chrome Moly. The little Pittsburgh 3/8 set that I have at work, which is only used on grade 2 lag screws, like dismantling pallets, motors when they come in, that sort of a thing. They show a ton of wear, but they still work well, and again, for the price point, it's great. It's a deal. They're almost exclusively used on the little battery-powered ratchets, so we're not generating a ton of torque. Obviously, if I was throwing them on a 3/8 impact gun, I would want Moly personally, or those would look pretty bad at this point in time. I've been spinning a lot of fasteners with them, but they hold up, and for the price, it's great. Same thing with getting that huge set, like 13 through 32 for 20 bucks. That's a pretty good buy, I have to say. When you're spending more than double that for what they would dub the professional set, okay, you can debate the case. It's got pros and cons. You can debate, obviously, some of you are going to love this layout, some of you won't care, some of you will be like me and want it to be left to right. You know, everyone has kind of got their preferences. I'll let that slide, but what I won't let slide, it should have a bigger or the same size stampings as this Pittsburgh. That's kind of inexcusable in my opinion. Now, whether they want to orient it upright like we have with this one, or if they want it flipped like they have on the Icons, they're at their liberty to do that. A simple way to appease sort of the masses is you'd have this side stamped 19, you know, oriented with the base, roll it over 180 degrees, you got the 19 stamped, you know, with the socket upside down, if you will. So I'd love to see that. I'd also like to see it laser etched, and you kind of have to question, you know, like, the big deal is, you know, if you love this socket set, if you get it And you're like, man, I've had these for 9 months. They've been incredible. They perform better than my insert X brand here that I thought was the best. And you want a 24. Okay, we'll just pick on the 24. You want a 32. Okay, it's not available. This is supposed to be like the professional line, right? So sure, you know, apparently if you whack out the 27, you walk in with it. Maybe you have to have a receipt. I don't know. I hear conflicting stories from people, but they basically open up a box and then give you the 27. That's cool. That's great for you. But in terms of like the company policy on Icon, all right, have the sizes available standalone. If you have to keep them in the back and you just have like a cardboard cutout, you know, like stores do, you know, for big items, do that. But if a guy walks in there and he doesn't have his receipt, but he needs his 27 because he uses it all the time and it's shattered or blew up or rounded, whatever, be able to sell him one. If a guy loves this set and is like, man, I really need the 32, that would be sweet, you know, have it available. You know, this is your professional line. These are just knocks that I've got on Icon, and that's really without using the sockets. It's just like at that level, if you jump on the Snap-on truck and you're like, dude, you know, the set you sold me is great, I want to expand it. Maybe you bought a 10 through 19, okay, and you're like, I need 21, 2, 4, and 7. Go get it, you know, and he'll sell it to you. If you show back up and you primarily use 5/8 hardware at work and you only want to buy 15/16 everything, they'll sell it to you. You don't have to get a full set. You know, you can debate like, oh, are you better off getting a set and saving money? Depends on the retailer and everything across the board, but you can just go buy individual sockets. I feel like that's something that's got to be brought into this line. That's just, it should have been done already, in my opinion. Same with the screwdriver, you know. If I wanted a number 2 Phillips and they've got it, but it's a part of a set that's 5 pieces or 7 pieces, that's cool. But I don't want the other 6 drivers. I want the number 2 Phillips. That keeps me from buying it and trying it. Maybe if I bought it, tried it, used it a while, and thought, man, you know, that's actually pretty good, I'd go back and get a set. But having it locked in a set keeps me from ever trying the tool, right? If you look at ratchets, they don't like lock the 3/8 ratchet in with a 1/4 inch. You can buy them individually. And then if you try out 3/8 because it's your bread and butter and love it, guess what? That guy goes back and he purchases the 1/4. Or if 3/8 is all he does, he's like, I'm going to get the flex head now, and I'm going to get the roto head next. And sets are great. You know, they could offer a 1/4, 3/8, and half. They could offer 3/8, you know, short, 3/8 flex, 3/8 long reach, you know, and sell those and package them, let people save a little money. But they've got to be available standalone like they have them, okay? Same thing here. You know, if you lose the tin all the time or you break it or whatever, you know, you should be able to go in, and even if you're like, I don't have the receipt or I got these secondhand, I know I don't have the warranty, you should be able to get the freaking socket. If you buy, let's say I walk into Harbor Freight right before you and I have to replace 19 under warranty. It's a super pleasant experience. That set they just opened up gets put there for clearance. Okay, so you're like, wow, you know, that's like a $75 set of sockets for $50. You know, the manager's like, hey, if you buy them now, I'll let them go for $45. And you're like, consider it sold, buddy. And then you want the missing 19. He's like, oh, sorry, I don't have one. And you're like, well, I want the 19, just sell it to me. I'm not asking for it for free. You know, what's it cost? Like $7-10? You know, here, take my money. They don't have it available, so they can't do it. And that to me is just kind of backwards. And I'm hoping that it's something that gets addressed moving forward. So again, I plan to make a video on that because I've had a lot of questions on it, and you won't see this for forever, but it is what it is. Also, I feel sorry for some of you like Penny Wesley. He left a comment the other day and he's like, man, why is this guy talking about it freezing? It's July and it's super hot. And it's like, oh yeah, I remembered, you know, your videos are 3 to 5 months back, and that's just how it is. So right now, yeah, it was, you know, 102 today, and this 88 that it is at 10 p.m. in the shop. By the time you see this video, I might be dreaming of an 88 degree day, right? You know, it might be like 30 degrees with a north wind, but it is what it is. I stack these, so if I get logged or slammed at work, I've got things covered, you know, I don't have to like frantically run around last minute. So with that said, though, what I want to know from you, and I think some of you can chime in here, if you have used the Icon sockets, how long have you had them? How do you like them? And perhaps most importantly, how do they compare? A lot of you using Icon will have stepped up from Pittsburgh. Some of you might be like me, you know, like maybe you do all metric, and so you come in and you get really good metric sockets. Every once in a while you've got that old stupid thing you have to work on that's SAE, and you don't want to invest in, say, Snap-on or Mac, or you don't want to go in and even buy, like, you know, the mid-tier socket. You're like, I just want something lower price for SAE. If that's you and this was your choice for SAE because of like the comprehensive sizes or whatever it might be, how do they hold up and how do they compare with what you've used across the board? So that is what would benefit people the most. Obviously, I can't speak on these at all because I've never used an Icon socket. I will also tell you, I would have bought these a long time ago and used these a long time ago, and we could be doing a review on them instead of an unboxing, because if they were stocked in the stores, I would have had these long ago. But they've been super hard to find. I guess they're like kind of getting them back in. That's another deal. I strongly, even though the Capris don't have, you know, the chamfered end and everything, I thought about picking them up, but like they're out of stock. It's sort of like Tektons, you know, like ratcheting wrenches and stuff. They're just not there. This was usually a deal with Harbor Freight where you're like, well, if you can't find them locally, just buy it online like you did. I would have done it a long time ago, but it was always like in-store only. So I go to, like, you know, I mean, between Amarillo and Lubbock, you know, there's a store in Plainview. I'm in and out of them all the time, and I always looked. I always went down, you know, the Icon line with the sockets looking specifically for this set. I would never see it. In fact, until recently, I'm talking like the last 2 weeks or so, maybe Father's Day, that's the first time I saw the 1/2 inch shallow, okay, metric deep. 3/8 I would see, but 1/2 inch, no, didn't happen. And it was the same way. You could not buy them online. It was in-store only, and you're like, okay, I'll just go to the store, and the stores don't have them. So when these showed back up and there was 20% off, and I was like, I didn't want to buy online and deal with the stupidity of the freight and everything, I just went ahead and did it because, again, I just don't see them in stores locally. So the price point was too good to pass up. Would I change things about the sockets initially? Yes. I would have them stamped differently, possibly mirrored, you know, on two sides. I would also think laser etching would have been a nice touch for the professional, you know, socket line. The tray, to each their own. I'll give them a pass on that. It is decent quality. I mean, I'll say that. If this was a piece of junk, it would be flopping already. So especially if this just goes straight to where you're putting it, I don't think you'll have any issues. It is nice that there is the cover because, again, like I've said, some of you, if these sit out, that keeps the dust down. And again, having this chunk of plastic back here, mainly just so people don't steal the sockets, well, that's an inconvenience for you. You could totally use that as like a forever tray. You know, like even if this tears and shatters and everything, you could throw them in there if that's what you want to do. But for now, these will stay here. These will be going on a rail of some kind. You'll just have to stay tuned for that, because honestly, I'm not exactly sure what I'll do, in part because we have the skips. And that kind of like kills a lot of the things, you know, and there's no way for me to go in and fill this in. So, like if we wanted to use a friction peg holder, you know, for Mechanics Time Savers, we got dead space. And then you'd have to go get different brands, and it's just weird. So I don't want them all to be Moly in this case. I'll sort of differentiate the two. But anyway, we have talked long enough. I'm going to try to whip out another video here in the 1040-ish time frame. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little something. Again, metric, not really my MO. I do have to do more and more of it, especially on the LX cars and everything. But SAE, that's kind of where I'm at with work, you know, like professionally, if you will, and then that's what I do here. You know, if I get to pick what I work on, it's like mid to late mid 60s to mid 70s is kind of the sweet spot, and there was no metric on the cars I work on from them. Okay. So rust might create some SAE fasteners that wind up accepting metric, you know, size sockets or wrenches, but that's another story for another day. So on that note, again, your opinions and experiences on this, please share them, because if somebody's watching this, they're probably interested in the same socket set or something similar from Icon, and I just simply have zero experience with them. So I would think, I mean, initial inspection, they look like they're going to be pretty decent. I will tell you right now, These are not going to classify in any way, shape, or form as a thin-walled socket. So if you've got a situation where you've got like some cheap off-brand, you don't even know what it is, and it's just too fat of a wall, and you think, oh, I'm going to go to Harbor Freight and get the icons. This 14 is about the thinnest that I have seen. I have seen some reviews online. I've tried to buy these for so long. Like, people will say like they got the full set here, but like instead of getting a 26, they get two 27s or two 22s or something. That seems to be a fairly frequent occurrence. So when you pick one of these up, you may want to check that. Just FYI. I'm checking all of ours. It looks like we are home free as best I can tell, but I think they look decent. So time will tell, obviously. That's the only way we'll know. Can't pass any judgment beyond a bench inspection here. But LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have yourself a fantastic week. Most importantly, I hope I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.